Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast 5, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, but we are going to pick out the biggest business story of the week, the most remarkable business story, a sleeper story, one that's flying under the radar a little bit, our favourite story as well. We've got a lot to cover and only 5 minutes to do it. Can I get started with the biggest story of the week?
Sure.
Look, I think it was interest rates and the fact that it's looking perhaps increasingly likely that we may see an interest rate hike when the Reserve Bank Board meets in August. It is all about inflation. The monthly inflation number for May came out this week, the annual number jumping up to 4% from 3.6%, higher prices for electricity, rents, fruit and vegetables, holidays, all contributing. And suddenly markets were pricing in a better than 1 in 3 chance of an August rate increase. And Sean, there's plenty of experts out there saying that we may actually be seeing interest rate rises and it could be happening as soon as August. And it's a very blunt instrument, an increase in interest rates. It's going to hurt some people a lot more than others, particularly younger people, families, those with mortgages and the rest. So it's not particularly fair and it will hurt, but there may be a risk worth taking in order to get inflation back under control. It may not actually happen. It may be a bit of an overreaction by markets this week. They are still, 2 in 3 chance that it won't happen. But anyway, the trend is your friend, as they say in economics, Sean. Inflation is not heading the way we need it to. It could be the biggest story of the week.
Oh, it probably is the biggest story of the week. Mine's related and it is all about markets. Of course, 30th of June tomorrow, Sunday. So the market closed yesterday for the financial year. Cracking year at the end of the day. Superannuation funds, growth funds, the market itself up 8, 9, 10%. Some of the best stocks were the technology stocks. Altium, Megaport, that's the last financial year. Even Goodman Group, property company, but does lots in data centres. That did really well. Next best were the financials. Commonwealth Bank, National Australia Bank, both did very well. Also, we had consumer discretionary stocks. JB Hi-Fi, Premier Investments, they did well. The flip side, poorly performing sectors for the financial year. Energy stocks, think Woodside. Materials, think the big miners, that's all on commodities, the price of commodities, and consumer staples, think big supermarkets. All in all, a pretty good year for superannuation funds and the market.
Yeah, sure was. Look, let's get on to the most remarkable story, Sean, and I think I have a bit of a nomination for this one. I think the most remarkable story this week was all about Julian Assange, and this is not kind of getting into whether he's a hero or not. There's a lot of commentary about that, about the fact that he released through WikiLeaks hundreds of thousands of classified US military documents exposing wrongdoing by the military, but it also put people in danger because their names hadn't been redacted. What I did think was remarkable was how quickly what was a very long drawn-out legal saga came to an end. At the beginning of the week, Julian Assange was in the UK's high-security Belmarsh prison. He spent almost 5 years there fighting extradition to the US. Prior to that, he'd been in the Ecuadorian embassy for 7 years. So the saga's been going on for at least 12 years now. Then all of a sudden, it was done. It was over. A lot of lobbying behind the scenes, a deal done with the US. Julian Assange walks out of Belmarsh onto a private jet, flies to a tiny island in the Western Pacific, a US territory, pleads guilty to one single criminal count, then back on the jet for a flight all the way home to Australia, escorted by none other than Australia's ambassador to the US, our former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd, and then he's back in Australia and he calls the current Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, to thank him for saving his life. Everything about this story is remarkable. How long it took to get to this point, how quickly then it all wrapped up, and the fact that this has got politics all the way through it, Sean.
Yeah, amazing story, that one.
All right, moving on then to the sleeper story of the week. What did you find for us?
Well, is this the week that big tech got its comeuppance? Probably not, but still, things are happening. This week, European Union regulators charged Microsoft with breaking antitrust rules by bundling its Teams video conferencing and collaboration software with a suite of other productivity tools. Regulators said Microsoft's packaging of Teams with stuff like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook amounted to an illegal abuse of market dominance that rival companies, places like Zoom and Slack, just can't compete against. Then earlier in the week, regulators accused Apple of imposing unfair restrictions on developers of applications for its App Store in violation of new EU competition rules. Apple's the first company to be charged with violating what's known as the Digital Markets Act, a law that passed back in 2022. Amazon, Google, Meta, TikTok, X, they're all facing investigations related to their business practices and services. This week, those two big lawsuits against Apple and against Microsoft put the spotlight firmly on the tech platforms. every other jurisdiction, including Australia, is watching very closely. It is truly a sleeper story and one we're going to hear a lot more about.
Okay, last one. Favourite story of the week, Sean. Just a quick one for me. The aviation, of course, it's going to be a plane story, wasn't it? But in particular, it's about Rex Airlines, the humble domestic airline. I reckon it deserves a bit of a pat on the back this week. They were the only Australian airline to rise in the prestigious Skytrax World Airline Awards, higher than Virgin, higher than Jetstar. Both of those went backwards. So too did Qantas. It slipped from 17th to 24th. And for 11 years, it ranked consistently within or very close to the top 10. Clearly, a lot of work to do to kind of turn Qantas around, but good on Rex. I mean, it rose to number 50. It's still got a long, long way to go, but I just think it's really kind of grown up now, kind of taking on Qantas, taking on Virgin in terms of flying the Golden Triangle, not just the regional and rural routes. Good on you, Rex.
Good on you. I agree. I'm with you on that. My favourite story very quickly is the fact that Michael Thompson, one of the greatest athletes of all time, the US track star, ran 200 and 400 metre and held world records in both those events, has established what's known as the Grand Slam track. It's going to be 4 major events, one in Los Angeles, one somewhere else in the US, 2 outside. The whole idea is to give track and field athletes more money. In fact, if you win one of these events, you could win $100,000. It's going to be 48 Olympic stars competing against 48 challengers. All kicks off hopefully later this year after the Olympics, which of course are in coming weeks. I think the fact that Michael Thompson, one of the greatest athletes of all time, is trying to put money back to athletes is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's a great story, that one. There we go, 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget to hit follow and join us online on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook and X. I'm Michael Thompson and this is the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed.